What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Glass Less Traveled. My name is Mike, and today we're going to be counting down to the top 5 bourbons for your New Year's Eve party. Now, if you guys are anything like me, anytime you go to a New Year's Eve party, generally I tend to leave right around like 10, 11 p.m. I usually don't make it until midnight, getting to the age now where it's just really hard to stay up that late. Also, if you're anything like me, your bourbon friends really only exist in Facebook groups and Instagram pages. They don't actually exist in your real life. Most of my friends that I have near me aren't really bourbon drinkers. So I have to bring something to a party that not only appeals to me and it's something that I want to drink, but it's something that other people are also going to want to share with me as well. Now, my friends down here, I live down in South Carolina, and my friends down here aren't really big bourbon drinkers. South Carolina isn't really a big bourbon state. We're about 15 years behind most trends as it is. So my big collection that I have here in this room way surpasses anything that most of my friends down here have. So it's up to me to kind of bring the bourbon if anybody wants to drink it. And usually anything that I bring, people kind of tend to think, well, this is going to have to be pretty good if he's bringing it from his personal collection. So here's my top 5 list. And you guys can obviously pick from your collection, but this is just what I'm going to think about bringing for my New Year's Eve party. First and foremost being 1792 Full Proof. Now, this is a bottle that generally you can find on most shelves and most larger liquor stores across the United States. Your Total Wines, your Liquor Barns, your Binny's, Party Source, things like that. You'll usually be able to find these. Most smaller independent family run liquor stores will typically have some sort of 1792 on the shelf. It may not be foolproof. Generally, it's going to be the 1792 small batch, but the full proof is really a big, nice, full bourbon. It comes in at 125 proof, usually runs in the anywhere between the $50 to $60 range is usually what I see it for down here in South Carolina when I do see it. But it's something that's really, really interesting to bring to a party. Now, most people at my New Year's Eve party have seen the 1792 small batch. They're familiar not only with this bottle, but the name, but they may have never tried the full proof before. So going in there and explaining to them that the full proof is not actually barrel proof or cask strength, explaining to them the story behind foolproof and why it's called foolproof and not cask strength. It's 125 proof. That's what it goes into the barrel at, and that's what they dilute it down to once it comes out of the barrel. Really big, bold, full flavors. Great to drink neat. Great to drink on the rocks. Great to drink in a cocktail. So even if you have that wide swath of palates around you that may not want to drink it neat, that may not want to drink it on ice, maybe they want it in a cocktail. Remember, cocktails are like good food. The better the ingredients, the better the outcome. So you really, really want to use outstanding bourbons in an old fashioned, in a Manhattan, or anything like that. Number 2, and this is going to be a surprise to most of you, and I will explain why. George Dickel, 15 year. Now, there's a love-hate relationship with a lot of people out there in George Dickel, and in my personal opinion, they actually make a really, really great whiskey. A lot of you get that dried orange note. Some of you call it metallic-y. Most people just call it Flintstones vitamin. But the reason I picked the George Dickel and specifically the 15 year is because of that number right there, because of that 15 year. Most people aren't really going to care at your New Year's Eve party, whether it's young or it's old. They just want it to be good. But if you can show them that it's a 15-year product, most people generally know that the older the bourbon, the better it is. And they're usually referring to like a Pappy 23, right? So the higher age statement, the more kind of exclusive it sounds. It's something really nice that you're bringing from your collection to cheers with people, to toast with people, to ring in the new year, and specifically because of that number. Now, George Dickel 15, the other reason I chose this is because it's pretty much everywhere. It's on a lot of shelves, and it's not even up high on the shelf. This is a relatively affordable product. I believe, if I remember correctly, this one cost me like 45, maybe $50. I could be wrong on that number, but I picked it up a while ago. So I don't exactly remember the exact price, but I want to say it was right around that $50 range. It's something that you can find a lot of places. Even the George Dickel, the Blue Label bottled in bond, is a 13-year product. So, and the year prior was an 8-year product. So if it's something that you have on your shelf wherever it is that you live at, just because of that 15-year age statement, and the fact that it really is a pretty good whiskey, um, is why it's my number two on the list. My number three is going to be a little bit difficult for some of you to find, and only because this product isn't allocated to a lot of states. And when it is, because of one particular bourbon reviewer on the internet, it has skyrocketed in price and everybody picks it up. And that is Henry McKenna 10-year single barrel bottled and bond. This is an absolutely fantastic bourbon. Um, Comes in at exactly 100 proof. It is a 10-year age stated product. Generally, if you can find this for MSRP anywhere around you, it's going to be right around that $40 range. Most places, though, because this is such a highly allocated product, you're almost guaranteed to not find it for MSRP. A lot of places, even down here in South Carolina, I'll see this on the shelf for almost $300. So just to give you guys an idea, this is something that maybe you might have on your shelf at your local liquor store, one of the big guys, or one of the more independent stores. But this is a great bourbon to bring. Most people are probably not going to even know what this is, but those who are familiar with bourbon, if you bring this to a party, especially if they've never had it before, this is going to be one of those special items that's really going to be enjoyable for people to drink. If you can't find Henry McKenna 10-year, one that I recommend to take its place, not because of a similar flavor profile, but kind of the exclusivity and just how good of a bourbon it is. Four Roses Single Barrel. Absolutely fantastic product. Generally around $45 to $75, depending on if you're going to go for just one of the basic products, or if you go for a single barrel from one of the bigger guys like a Binny's, a Total Wine, Party Source. Those will be generally around the $75 range. But Four Roses Single Barrel, if you cannot find Henry McKenna 10-year, is definitely a good product to keep in mind to swap out if you don't have that Henry McKenna 10. Number four, and one of my absolute favorite releases that comes out every year. Unfortunately, I was not able to get the most recent batch, which is one of the oldest batches that they released. But this is the Remus Special Reserve Repeal Reserve. This one comes in a little bit higher price tag, right around the $80 to $90 mark. Sometimes you see it a little bit higher, around 100 to 120. This one in particular, this is the 2020 batch. This is batch number 4. This is all 12-year bourbon. There's actually two different medleys in here is what they call them. Both of them being 2008 bourbons. One of them being a 21% rye, the other one being a 36% rye. But any one of these that you can bring, it's just a really, really cool bottle to have on the back bar or on the shelf or on the table, wherever you're having your New Year's Eve party. It's kind of got that Art Deco-y prohibition sort of look to it, kind of ringing in the new year. It's just a really, really cool bottle to have. One that most people probably have never seen before, they've never heard of before, especially if your friends are anything like mine. Because remember, most of my bourbon friends only exist in Facebook groups on social media. So for somebody that's never had this bourbon or is not really a big bourbon drinker, this would be a really good one to introduce them to. It's 100 proof, 50% alcohol, so it's not overpowering. Really, really great on ice. Fantastic in a cocktail. So that's number 4. Number 5 is one of my absolute favorite bourbons. It's one of my favorite vertical series to collect. Comes out 3 times a year. Another one from Heaven Hill, and this is the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. Now, again, we've been kind of talking about people at our New Year's Eve party that aren't bourbon drinkers. This might seem a little too harsh and a little too powerful for them, because remember, this is a 12-year age stated product, and it does come in at barrel proof, cask strength. So generally speaking, these are going to be in the 120 all the way up to the 140 range. So these are pretty potent bourbons. But the flavor that comes out of there, especially when you pour it over ice, when you add a couple drops of water, or again, when you mix it into a cocktail. This is absolutely my favorite bourbon to add to a cocktail. It doesn't matter if it's A121 or B520 or C919. Doesn't matter. All of the batches have generally been really, really fantastic. Some better than others, but they all perform really, really well in a cocktail. This is another one that is particularly difficult to find. Comes out 3 times a year in January, May, and September. Usually around the $60 to $70 mark. Most places that you see this, though, that don't get a big allocation of Heaven Hill products, especially the allocated ones, you're probably going to see this for much more than $70. I've seen this in South Carolina go up to like almost $200 and $300 for a bottle of the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. So that's my pick for top five. One substitute if you can't find those in particular. Everybody, I hope you had an absolutely wonderful Christmas. I hope you have a fantastic New Year. I hope 2022 doesn't suck as much as 2020 and 2021 did. But I'm hoping for really, really wonderful things this next year. Cheers, everybody. I will see you guys again in our next video. See ya.